Hello, class. Daniel Longest here, and I'm here to talk to you about rising tuition costs, rising college costs, and how we can lower them to the accurate market value. Um, my proposal is that we slowly eliminate federal student loan programs in order to encourage universities to lower tuition costs and overall costs. There's a couple of ways we can go about this. A couple of the supported ideas that will put this into effect. My first point is has to do with the law of demand. So in economics, we look at the law of demand, and it says that when a quantity demanded increases, the overall price for the supply of the quantity increases, and it looks like this. So if we want to take a look at this graph, and it might be backwards for you, but this is the price on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis. This is the demand curve, and this is the supply curve. So we're looking at students, and we're looking at universities providing education. Now, what the federal student loan programs do is that they artificially increase the demand to D2 here. So that causes a price increase for the quantity demanded. But it's artificial because it's not the market that's pushing these forces, the demand to increase. It's the government. So the government is interfering into the market, causing an artificial increase in prices. So one way to cut unnecessary costs for college would be to eliminate these student loan programs or make the financing harder to get, which would encourage universities to cut unnecessary costs and provide other avenues for tuition assistance that would come out of the institution itself instead of top down from the government. Another thing to look at, this would be a benefit to eliminating federal student loan programs, would be labor market equalization. So what we mean by that is that we're looking at the total labor market, available labor in the United States, and we're looking at all the skills, and we're saying that they're all equally valuable and all equally pursuable. But what these federal student loans do is that they incentivize people who wouldn't necessarily go to college, which isn't good because we want everybody to think that their path in life is as valuable as going to college. So we don't want somebody in a STEM degree or in a STEM program, technical specialization or a trade, to think, oh gosh, I don't have a degree, I just have a certificate, and it's less valuable than a college education. The federal student loans play into the stigma, which then has caused the labor market in the U.S. to be saturated with bachelor's degrees, which makes the overall value of the degree go down. So not only are we not valuing the labor correctly, we now have the secondary effect of people with bachelor's degrees earning less income because people with bachelor's degrees are more available. Again, with the law of demand and law of supply, this is bad. So ironically, these federal student loan programs are doing the opposite of what they're intended to do, which is to help people create more opportunity and go to college to make more money, but it's having the opposite effect. It's having people go to college, graduate, and then come out of college getting jobs that they're underemployed in. And another thing to think about is the quality of education. So without the funds for the federal student loan that the federal student loans give to universities, the universities would be incentivized to focus on the quality of education to attract students. So you're not going to go to a university that doesn't spend as much on the per student as the next university. So limiting funds would further incentivize institutions to improve quality and spend money wisely instead of what we have now, where the funds are so available that they're spending on administrators, on strange programs, investment schemes, things that universities shouldn't be doing. That are outside the scope of providing education. And then a benefit to eliminating student loans would be the overall price adjustment for college. So then we would have universities furthering their evaluation of their services they're providing and being able to accurately price the education they're providing. And then students could then choose which institution was more valuable, which they wanted to go to, and then it would have a better effect on the overall market for secondary education. And then last, another way that we could go about reducing costs by limiting student loans, federal student loans, would be to privatize them. So instead of the government instituting them by mandate, we could offer them as a product on the private sector side through the banks. So some major lending firms like SunTrust, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and big credit unions like Navy Federal Credit Union, Virginia Credit Union, being able to provide those services would be better because they're dependent on business. So it's a check on the power that they have. They would then be incentivized to provide a product that's appealing and that's one that students would want to work with. That would also give students more flexibility because they can then work with the institution to pay off those loans rather than the government mandating and then saying, you can't default on them, you have to pay this interest rate. Whereas in a private institution, you can apply for refinancing, you can discuss the overall loan, there's a possibility for loan forgiveness, that sort of thing. It's less coercive and more voluntary, which would then be more appealing for students to do. That's my take on lowering costs of college, most notably tuition, by eliminating federal student loan programs. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them because I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about economics and education. So thank you for listening to me. I look forward to your feedback.